And when they went to the queen to tell her her subjects had no bread, do you know what she said?
Let them eat cake.
Here, take the bomb.
We're getting screwed, man. Every time we turn around, we're getting screwed. Oh, the revolution's going to be through podcasting for sure. That's the only way we talk. It's the little guys that take the brunt of everything. It's got to stop. Peasants, man. We're just peasants. Every one of us. You watch those old movies, you see the peasants in the background with the kings and queens walking around. We're those people. We're those people. Good morning, peasants. Welcome to another episode of The Peasant's Perspective. I just got a warning on my little streaming thing. Wonder what that's all about. Carlitos, good morning from Lake Conroe, Texas. Glad you made it. Sarah Sings from Oklahoma. Glad you made it. Happy Friday. It is Friday. It feels so good. Pony Boy, this is probably my last day doing this by myself. I'm going to be back with Ron on Monday. Pony Boy, good morning. Carlito, Tiffany, good morning from the Tube. Glad you guys made it. Wow, it is Friday. It's just, I think this over and over. It's not like I thought this last night and it's the first time I thought it. I feel like time is flying. I feel like, days turn into weeks, weeks turns into month. Like here we are, it's already a week into August. And in my mind, I'm still writing July on my addresses or on my dates, right? It feels weird that the month is flying by so fast. Well, I know why you guys show up bright and early every morning, 6:30 a.m. to I'm done talking, Monday through Friday, Pacific Standard Time for the simultaneous sip. And all you need for that is a cup or a mug or a glass, a tankard, a chalice, a stein, a canteen, jug or flask, a vessel of any kind. Fill it with your favorite liquid. I like coffee. And join me now for the unparalleled pleasure of the dopamine hit of the day, the thing that makes everything better, the simultaneous sip. And it starts right now.
Thank you for shopping at 9/11. How can I help you?
Zoran, I heard about the new law. You're going to make people show ID just to buy groceries in the city stores?
Yes, Congressman. It's very advanced. We're doing a library card-esque caloric verification system. You show the special ID, then you get to purchase the government-approved nourishment items. No ID, no cheese. It's science.
This is brilliant. Protect the yogurt from the outsiders. I love it.
Welcome to 9/11.
So the ID thingy for the city or like whatever, is it real?
It's totally real. Voting is sacred and emotional and about feelings. But food is logistics. So we put the ID checkpoint in front of the bread, not the ballot. That way only real New Yorkers get the municipal snacks.
I used to say people steal bread because they can't pay rent.
And that's exactly why we put the ID checkpoint in front of the bread, not the ballot.
This is the most radical thing I've heard all year.
It's equity with rules.
I'm posting about this on X.
Welcome to 9/11. Can I see your ID?
Explain this ID for groceries policy to me.
Imagine democracy as a big party. Voting is the VIP list. No ID required, just show up and vibe. But the snack table? That's different. The snack table needs credentials, library card style. Keeps the wrong people from eating the good chips.
That's genius messaging, Zoran. Pure genius.
What can I say? I'm good at what I do. You're welcome.
I've spent years saying voter ID is Jim Crow 2.0. But grocery ID, that's not Jim Crow. That's organic.
Exactly. Elections build democracy. Groceries build character.
This is the bold, forward-thinking leadership New York deserves. Now, can somebody tell me where the raw meat is?
Welcome to 9/11.
Is it true you're requiring identification to buy food in the city-run stores?
That's correct. I'm targeting New Yorkers only. Non-New Yorkers will be gently redirected away from the municipal food inventory. It's like caution tape for Doritos.
This kind of excellent governance is making me hungry.
Welcome to 9/11, Governor.
Zoran, tell me about your new grocery ID policy.
It's simple. I don't want random people from outside the city eating our taxpayer-funded cereal, so I'm making them prove they belong by showing me an ID.
This is smart, very smart. I'm thrilled about this.
It's like a library card, but for hunger.
I heard what you're doing. You're making people show ID to buy a loaf of bread in a government store, but you still won't ask for ID when they vote. Let me explain something to you very slowly so even you can understand it.
Hello, is this a counselor?
Hello, is this a counselor? Oh, that's pretty fun. That's pretty fun. So Zoran Mondami, he's doing the whole free groceries thing. It's so funny. The buses are going to be free, but apparently with Zoran, somebody was just telling me that they got in trouble for turnstile hopping. I can't remember who this was. Yesterday, Someone was telling me a story about it. Anyways, they got in trouble for turnstile hopping in New York. And I was like, really? Oh, yeah, I remember who it was. They got arrested, straight up arrested. And it was like this big deal. And it was for turnstile hopping. And I was like, in New York? It's like, yeah, apparently you got the wrong skin color. You can't turnstile hop if you aren't in the, what Dami called it? The elite club or whatever, the members only club. Okay. There is a report that came out from Zero Hedge. Let's go over this here. So this is from Tyler Durden. Zero Hedge has got great reporting. If this is real, we are cooked. Footage circulating purporting to be from North Africa desert shows what looks like an enormous column of sub-Saharan African men moving under escort. Some estimates put the number at 100,000. Commentators claim Algerian military vehicles and personnel are shepherding them toward the coast. If the scale of the direction prove accurate, Europe faces another deliberate pressure wave on top of the chaos already unfolding in Ceuta. Wait until they see what is coming. So here's a video image. So can you see this massive line of people? I mean, it's as far as you can see in this image, back and forth, pretty thick line there. So that is a line of all male military age men being walked from Algeria to Europe. I told you, Naomi Wolf says, I told you damn legacy media is incurious or blind. I said these are sub-Saharan African militias. They can only be transported across 3 to 5 countries by nation states or armies. This is an invasion of Europe via Iran and Russia through Algeria and others. So, yeah, this is a very big deal here. Pretty big deal here. So anyways, the article goes on to continue. One account framed the Algerian regime as collecting Africans from across the continent and directing them toward the border with Morocco, linking them to the Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez's recent visit to the Algiers. There's some more video footage of the transporting of men. The caption reads, the Algerian system is gathering Africans from all African countries and deporting them to the border with Morocco. The visit of Pedro Sanchez to Algeria ain't no coincidence. They want to plot how to stir up the crisis between Morocco and Spain. The big shots are working to wreck the relations between Morocco and Spain. So apparently one of the other things Spain is doing is anybody who crossed last week that is under 18, they're going to keep them. And they've dedicated like 25 million euros or billion euros for their care. There's a lot of them. And I'm sure there's a lot of 21-year-olds like, I'm 17, no paperwork. So this is just a massive deal. Parallel clips show sub-Saharan groups mobilizing after the Moroccan surge in Ceuta, with local media noting thousands more Africans preparing for the trip. It's just incredible here. And so there's tons of these little footage. They're making their way through Africa, literally crossing nation states, being escorted by nation state militaries. This is a big deal. 150,000 to 200,000 people walking their way to Europe. That is incredible. According to 2 Spanish media outlets, authorities have identified several suspected jihadists among the migrants who traveled to I don't know how you say it. Ceuta? I'm sure I'm butchering it. Ponyboy, you should put a phonetics in there for me. How do you say that in Spanish? Ceuta. How is that pronounced? The investigation is early. Officers expect the figure to rise. Migration expert Ruben Pulido said, since the Moroccan attack on that city began, I've been warning about this issue. The scenario that has unfolded in the autonomous city is a vector for jihadists and military infiltration. So some people are taking this kind of seriously, but I think his headline is accurate. If this is real, we are cooked, right? There is no preparation or a real immune response to this type of invasion that's not, frankly, catastrophic, right? Like there's no way to get 200,000 people out without, breaking a few eggs, so to speak. It's not a good situation by any stretch of the imagination. Okay, I've got to get, how do I make this go back to the way it was? Sorry, guys. Every now and then I have to figure out what's going on here. There we go. I got it. Okay, so that's a big deal, right? Fortunately, it's happening in Europe, but we've seen the same thing happening here in the American continent. Just a steady stream of people coming to that southern border until January 20th, 2021. And then all of a sudden the numbers dropped down to a trickle, but we were having thousands upon thousands upon thousands crossing every single day. Today, I have my no vacancy hat. We got no vacancy here in Washington State. Go. Actually, we do have a little bit of vacancy because people keep moving to Idaho. Douglas Wyatt, good morning, peasants. Glad you made it. Okay, Scott Bessent was on the Charlie Kirk show yesterday. And he said something with regards to illegal immigration that it seems super obvious. But where has the media been on this, right? Where has the media been? It seems like the media has not cared to share this story and how it is affecting real Americans over and over and over again. The media wants to act like immigration is a net positive, and they want to act like rising prices, especially when it comes to housing, is some Donald Trump policy result or just natural market forces. Builders need to build more. Of course, that's not really what's going on here. So here's Scott Bessent on the Charlie Kirk Show talking about how illegal immigration directly affected real estate prices. And it actually probably stopped us from having a crash of some sort, which, by the way, anytime you're supposed to have a crash and you don't, and you kick the can down the road, it usually gets worse.
Communities when you get, and we don't know what it was it 10, was it 15, was it 25 million illegals? There's no new housing stock, so you saw rents go through the roof, and now the people don't want to admit it, but there are academic studies that show where ICE goes, rents go down.
That's exactly right.
Rents go down.
So
communities when you get
rent goes down,
and
where ICE goes, rent goes down. So they've been able to demonstrate that now every single month in the areas where they've been targeting deportation, rent has gone down. I believe I think it's Arizona, the Phoenix metro area, rents have gone down 25%. So if you had $2,000 rent, it's $1,500 now. Okay. Just the deportations alone have done that. Now, some places like New York, you could deport a lot of the immigrants. You're still going to have a housing crisis. There's a literal density that you would reduce, but you would still have a huge pressure on housing in certain cities. But in a lot of cities, man, you start deporting illegal immigrants and that opens up a lot of housing. I saw a video circulating this morning of a ICE raid in Belfair, Washington. So Belfair is about an hour south of me, and we haven't seen any significant ICE raids. I haven't heard of anything like that happening here. So the fact that I saw it in Belfair, I was like, woohoo. And, not that we ever want to rejoice in the suffering of others, but illegal immigration is a cancerous issue, right? It's jobs, it's civilization itself, it's the social compact we have with each other, the high trust society that we live in. All of these things are at risk with illegal immigration at the rate it is. In addition to that, it is a giant loophole that our adversaries can drive a Mack truck into, and our immigration policies. And one of those policies has been the birthright citizenship. Rewind the clock back to the late 1800s when the 14th Amendment was passed and the concept of birthright citizen came around. Obviously, it was a solution for slaves. They were property. They weren't people. They became people. Now they had their sovereignty. They needed to have citizenship, and their children needed to be granted the right of citizenship as well. Remember, they had been denied citizenship in America for over 100 years, close to 100 years. So it was a big deal. But for someone to come to America, it was a big journey. If you were coming on boat, it took a month, 2 months. If you're coming on foot, good luck. Okay. And so by the time you got here, you were establishing residence. You were like domiciling. Now you can be anywhere in the world and you're a plane flight away from the United States, and you can immediately fly home, which is what birthright tourism is. Rich people or just people around the world will come to America, touch down, get born, get a birth certificate, get a social security number, and poof, they're on a plane back out of town. In my local county, when I had my last kid, which is almost 8 years ago now, we were in the hospital with the nurse, and there's a whole anecdotal story that goes with this. But bottom line was this. The nurse told us 50% of the babies born in that hospital that year were to illegal immigrants, people with no paperwork, no documentation, but the children were getting documentations. Parents didn't have it. And when she mentioned the races of the people, not white. And I'm in a county that's 85, 90% white. So where are these people coming from? Where do they live? Where do they work? I don't see these, minority populations anywhere in my county sufficient enough to be 50% of the births at our local hospital. Makes no sense. It's birthright tourism. Well, the Supreme Court declared birthright tourism. All right. It's just going to happen. So Donald Trump yesterday signed an executive order to kind of circumvent the birthright citizenship. And basically, the way the Supreme Court wrote their decision, they said, listen, if you're in the United States and our country's letting you be here, okay, your kids are citizens. So what this executive order does is it declares certain people who come across the border illegally, et cetera, it declares them invaders. Okay, now you're not subject to the jurisdiction thereof, you're subject to expulsion. That changes the definition of what they are. And again, all you got to do is change the definition. The executive branch has the ability to say, this is what an invader is, and then all of a sudden they're not under the jurisdiction thereof and they're due for immediate expulsion and their kids can't be citizens. Boom! So, this was talked about yesterday in the White House when they had their press conference over the signing of 2 executive orders to this effect. Let's hear what Miller says about it.
Been clear, obviously, since the day that it was passed. You can go back and you can read the congressional debates. This is not something that's even seriously contested by anybody. The president is using his authority as commander-in-chief to sign first an executive order using the new ruling the Supreme Court issued to expand the definitions of people who are ineligible for birthright citizenship. That includes, for example, alien enemies of the United States, members of foreign terrorist organizations, and large categories of people who lobby and act on behalf of foreign governments. And so with taking this action, it ensures that large numbers of people who wrongly would be getting birthright citizenship will no longer be eligible for those benefits.
That sounds good to me. Don't mind that one bit. Donald Trump went on to add his own commentary to it.
So we're cracking down very big crackdowns, and this will give us the right to do it in a much more forceful manner. But they've taken birthright citizenship and they've made a joke out of it. And we're actually the only country of size, I think just about the only country, period, that does birthright citizenship. I thought we were going to win it at the Supreme Court. Unfortunately, we had a bad decision, very unfair decision. Our country suffers because of it, and we're ending it a different way. So we're cracking down very big.
Ending it a different way. Gosh, you got to give it to Donald Trump. If you can't do it one way, he'll just turn around and try a different way. As he said to the United States military, you go over it, under it, around it, through it, doesn't matter. You just get through it. So the birthright citizenship and getting rid of that it's a big deal. It's something that's going to make a difference in the world for my children and my grandchildren. It's going to make a big difference. Just like opening the borders for my grandparents made a big difference in my life. It made a big difference in my life. You know, I remember having conversations with my grandmother, and I was sitting at the kitchen table at my house. She was visiting us, and I had just come of age, right? I'd just gotten married. I was 21, maybe 22 years old when this conversation took place. I already had a kid, and I was realizing the gravity of what it means to be a father and have all that responsibility to care for things and pay for things. And I was still in college. And anyways, I was keenly aware at the time at how the housing market was really outpacing the ability for anybody working locally where I was at in Eastern Idaho at that time from affording. And it was like, hey, I'm married with a family. I had a job that wasn't a halfway decent, bad job. It was potentially a career if I wanted to. Wasn't using my degree, but I could have continued doing that work. But it would never pan out. I would never get ahead. I would never make enough money to buy a house, but I would make enough money to get by. It would be the golden handcuffs. Okay. Over the years, okay, I was in the trades at the time, and then I got into real estate and continued remodeling and stuff. Over the years, illegal immigration caused downward price pressure when I was in construction, right? We had competitors that had all the same equipment we did, but they had illegal aliens working for them. And I'm talking the kind of illegal aliens that they like pay to have brought across the border, and then they put up in their spare bedroom for a year while they work off their debt. That kind of stuff. The kind of illegal immigrants where the business owner brags to me when he's buying my dump truck that, oh yeah, my guys all work 7 days a week and they don't get time off. They don't need time off. Their family's not here. He's bragging about all the advantages of hiring immigrants, right? Which clearly they're illegal immigrants. And that's a big deal. The guy's like one of the biggest contractors around, skirts the system, cheats the rules, flaunts it, does it openly. What was anybody going to do about it? Right. And that's the frustration. My whole adult life, I've seen an increasing immigrant population, and I have nothing against immigrants. I'm a grandkid of an immigrant, great grandkid of an immigrant. Okay. Nothing against immigrants at large. But when you don't assimilate, when you don't follow the rules, when you don't get in line and do everything you're supposed to do to come here legally and properly, then yeah, I have a problem with it. No vacancy. Okay. No vacancy. I have a problem with it. The second, third, fourth, fifth order causes are of such magnitude that I can be a little callous and say no at the border. Okay. Because if I let you in and the person behind you and the person behind you, one of you might be a criminal on the run that I can't background check. One of you might be a jihadist. One of you might be an economic terrorist where you'll come in and undercut a market in some small town in America and put some family out of business, right? There are so many second, third, fourth, and fifth order consequences. And for decades, the political party that has generally pushed for open borders, believe it or not, has mainly been the Republican Party under the Koch brothers, political donation influence, and the Chamber of Commerce. Believe it or not, okay? The open border policies was like, yeah, let's just fight crime, but we need the people to come in the country. And there's reasons why you would do that, but they're lazy reasons. They're lazy reasons because you're plugging a hole in a leaking economy that you caused by your bad monetary policy. So Republicans kind of, a lot of people that would vote for Republicans are frustrated. They're frustrated because for the first time in decades since Ronald Reagan, Republicans actually have a strong leader with a backbone who will do what he says and will make forward progress on conservative agenda items. And people like me who admire that and want to put our support behind that, we feel stymied by the Republican Party because they seem to be blocking their own president over and over and over again. Donald Trump addressed this in an interview that aired last night where he talked about the voting base being frustrated with Republicans.
Come to, but I'm just watching guys like you and you're very talented people. The question is, will they vote? Because a lot of them are very angry at Republicans, to be honest with you. Why is that? I don't know. I mean, they're angry at Republicans, but they're not angry at me.
Why?
They're not angry at me, but they are angry at Republicans.
Everyone's always angry.
And there are some areas that are basically Democrat, but they're Trump, like Pennsylvania. I win Pennsylvania easily.
It's true.
I win other places easily. Look, I won Michigan easily. I did well with Michigan. I did well with almost everything. To be honest, I did well with everything.
But it's a good point, Mike.
Now the question is,
Rogers lost when you were on the ballot.
Yeah.
And now he's up again.
Well, he lost when I'm on the ballot, and I won big in Michigan. But I happen to think he won.
Okay. Well, that's
no. I think it was a rigged deal. I think they rigged him out of it. But he's a very good candidate. I think he come too.
There you go. Trump won in Michigan, but the Senate candidate didn't. It makes no sense. It's just rigged, right? Like it's rigged. It doesn't fly. People don't split a ticket between Donald Trump and CIA senator up in Michigan, Slotkin, right? You don't do that. That's not what happened up there. It was clearly cheating, and Trump's alluding to that. And the challenge with it is that Republicans tend to be weak. They're too nice. It's this weaponization of virtue that I'm constantly talking about.
It might be.
Are they more vicious than Republicans?
I think the Republicans are too nice, actually. I think the Republicans are much nicer. I think the Republicans are much more gentle than the Democrats. I think the problem with the Democrats, they have bad policy. They're smart, they're vicious, but they have really bad policy. Open borders, let the whole world come into our country, let prisons be emptied out into our country. The transgender mutilization of your children, that's fine with them. All of these things that they have men playing in women's sports, they want men playing. They have horrible policy. They love crypto. They love AI, but they don't like it if I'm involved in it, because if I'm involved, I'm like, as president, look, I've created the greatest market ever. Nobody could believe that we're leading substantially China, as an example, in AI and in crypto. And it's because of me. Biden was against all this. I don't think Biden had any idea what it was. But our country right now is doing better than it's ever done. You know, when I see polls on the economy, I should have 150%. Not it might be.
It should have 150%. I don't know about that. But, that's, again, Trump is saying the Republicans are just too nice. They don't understand how vicious the Democrats are. Some understand it, but the vast majority of them don't. And I'm going to talk about one of the reasons why I think that is. There's a disease that's floating around the District of Columbia that apparently people catch when they get there, and it causes them to be compromised in many, many ways. And we'll discuss that here in just a couple minutes. So here is also Donald Trump. And, this is one of those things, we do a little bit of trolling. This might be trolling, although I think the Q folks out there are probably going to panic or freak out and think that this is some big continuity of government thing or something like that. John Atakis, good morning from Salt Lake City, listening with your grandparents. Hello, Grandma and Grandpa. Glad you guys are listening. So fun. Okay, so he does a little bit of trolling here, or maybe he's serious. I don't know. How long is Donald Trump going to be in office? Well, I mean, when is his term actually up?
Doing some unbelievable business. Chips will have a big percentage of the chip business by the time I leave office, which could be a long time. Who knows? But it could also be fairly quick. They say 2.5 years. We're going to find out. But I just want to say that it's an honor to have worked with a very smart group of people. But we're doing some...
They say 2.5 years,
business.
But we'll see. We'll see if I stay maybe a lot longer. And you notice Max or why am I want to say Max Miller, Representative Max Miller, Stephen Miller in the background, and Howard Lutnick are both smiling. I think they know it's trolling. I think this causes the media to go into a panic. He can't run again. He's already run twice, right? There's some legal strategizing and trying to run for a fourth term now because of the cheating, but that's it. It's all centered around the cheating. How can you disqualify a president when he was cheated out of one term and the elections aren't secure? Can you even have another election and transfer power? That's the question. If the election apparatus isn't secure, and I'm going full dictator here. If I'm a dictator and my objective as a dictator is to maintain democracy, okay, oddly enough, that'd be a weird dictator thing, but it's to maintain democracy that we get to vote. If you know votes are being stolen, if you know the elections are completely fraudulent and can't be counted on, do you just give up power? Trump did this in 2020, but I think it's to be, despite all the evidence and despite all his gut feelings, there were a couple key advisors like White House General Counsel Pat Cipollone and, a handful of Bill Barr and a couple of, don't challenge power, don't challenge the elections, the whole country will fall apart. Oh, we don't have any evidence. Meanwhile, Bill Barr's killing investigations into election fraud, right? That's the problem. Can you really transfer power now? After Trump's press conference, after all the releases that we've had, after everything we know, can you really transfer power now? We've had a whole series of elections since I got out of prison. And some of them are like, oh, great, Trump's winning his nominations, he's getting his people on the ballot. But at the same time, has anything changed? Has there been enough significant systemic changes in the election apparatus that we can trust it? Have they got rid of mail-in ballots? No. Have they tightened up some rules around them? Maybe. Could be on the margins, might not even matter one bit. What about the machines? We still using the machines? Are any machines good? No, none of them are. They're all made in China. They all got weird stuff going on. They've all been compromised. They can be hacked every which way from Sunday. They're about the least secure piece of hardware and software that you can get. It's designed by a freaking drug dealer named Eric Coomer or whatever team he had working with him, or he ran it, right? Totally not a guy that pays attention to detail. Okay. Go look into the Eric Coomer stuff. Heather Young, you know what I'm talking about. Joe Altman covers it all the time because he's sparring with that guy head to head. CEO, president of Dominion Voting Machines. So knowing all of that, how can we continue? How could Trump transfer power? We started out with Mandami, right? He's rocking the city of New York. He's published a list of wealthy people who own second homes. He's given out free stuff. He's promising the moon. He's talking out of both sides of his mouth. If you're Jewish, vote for me, but then I'm going to not let you be Jewish. I mean, the guy's he's got crazy staff. Well, turns out his election had some shenanigans in it. And these shenanigans are not small. And they've caught the attention of some important people, specifically some attorneys. So here is, her name is, I always get the name, Mary Hornick. She's the CEO of realamerica.vote. And she was on with Steve Bannon talking about Mandami's election in New York. And they've discovered some things and proven some things and passed some things on to prosecutors that could change things significantly.
Right, totally agreed. It's a national security and sovereignty crisis, and it's a liberty crisis because the founding of this nation was done in order to secure the sovereignty of the citizens over the law so that we would not be ruled by tyrants ever. And so it's not just a national security issue, it's a national philosophy issue and a personal liberty issue. But let me tell you something really great, Steve, because actually I've been working for over a year and a half. I've been meeting with the U.S. Attorney in the Northern District of New York, John Sarcone, an American patriot, and his FBI field office. And they have been already validating pilot studies that we did using this exact methodology, the exact same process we used to study the Mamdani election, we already used to study the 2024 election. And they validated all of our outputs. They said, you're right. And John Sarcone himself called me and said, Marley, get me more. And I want to tell you, the outcome of this audit is not more audits. If it's true, and the U.S. Attorney agrees that the New York City and New York State boards of elections have certified an election with 23% fake votes, that's a federal crime. And in 1941, in 1888, in 1973, the Supreme Court upheld criminal convictions for election officials who certified false tallies because they're not allowed to choose. It is the people who choose. Their job is to sit down, make sure every vote counted is qualified and valid, make sure that counts are real, and certify only legislators and officials who were chosen by the qualified citizens of the United States of America. So I fully expect to see and I know there is currently an aggressive investigation going on into this matter out of Northern District. It's joining into the Southern District, and we could see prosecutions on this. This is not an oopsie.
This is not an oopsie. We could see prosecutions. 23%. 23%. Not 0.2%. Not 2 to 3%. Not a astronomical sway. Most elections in the United States, 5 to 7% of cheating. 23%. And how much you want to bet those 23% of ballots that are fraudulent all went for Mamdani? In New York City, you have a mayor that is changing everything that was potentially elected by only 24% of the population. That is called a dictatorship of the minority. That is step one to communism, right? When the oppressed, the minority, because all minorities must be oppressed by default. That's just how it has to be. When the minority takes control, he reverses the oppression. Every freaking time communists take power. Collectivists. Every freaking time. 23, or was it 23 or 26%? 23%. 23%. Let that sink in. That is a huge number. That's how you end up with President Trump getting elected in Michigan, probably 75% of the votes, and they take 25% of them, and the senator, Mike Rogers, running on the ticket, barely loses. Trump's was too big to rig, but Mike Rogers almost didn't make it. But imagine if they can swing an election 23%. That means you have to cross like a 70% threshold to have a chance of having the ticker on CNN on election night hit 50%. People have to go to jail. There's no way 1 in 4 ballots coming through is fake and somebody didn't notice that. Which begs the question, what's the real threat here? Is the real threat the volunteers that volunteer to go watch ballots get counted? Is the real threat a foreign actor who steals voter data? Those are all threats. But John Solomon on Just the News, who's been working in the government looking at classified documents and has now seen more than he's ever seen, said the real threat to American elections is not a foreign adversary. It's the intelligence agencies themselves.
We've talked a lot about China and Iran, but you know what? The single greatest intrusion on our election the last 6 years is what the FBI, the CIA did to our country. They didn't put a thumb on our scale. They put a whole body on the scale of the election. They tried to pretend Donald Trump was a Russian asset when they knew it wasn't. They used Hillary Clinton's opposition research to do it. They misled FISA courts. They misled the American people. They expended tens of millions of dollars. They told us not to believe the Hunter Biden laptop when they knew it was real. They told us there was no evidence that Joe Biden and Hunter Biden had corrupt relationships when their files were chock full of it. The greatest intrusion in our election wasn't a foreigner. Our vulnerabilities to foreigners are high. The greatest intrusions to our elections were our own intelligence and law enforcement agencies from 2016 to early 2025. They intervened in our election more than any foreign power. And thus far, none of them have paid a dear price. We've talked a lot about China and Iran, but you know
Sit
what?
with that for just a moment. Sit with that for just a moment. The single greatest intrusion into our elections is the intelligence agencies themselves. Trump's a Russian agent, covering up for Hillary Clinton. Trump's a Russian agent. Ukraine quid pro quo, COVID, changing election rules under emergency orders, the 2020 election, January 6th, environmental disasters caused in the name of climate change, rampant inflation, open border. Okay. Bill Barr stopping investigations in 2020. It's the deep state. It's always one direction. There's no oopsies, Democrats screwed up this time, but we'll release the truth. And Republicans are always screwing up. That's why it's always bad news for Republicans. That's not what's happening here. 23%. Do you know how many people you have to kill and cut out their tongues to keep that under wraps? And I say kill. You don't think people have died over this? Ashley Babbitt did. Rosen Boylan did. Benjamin, I can't remember the fourth man's name on January. They did. And many more. Steve Baker says someone was murdered over the J6 thing. Okay. You don't think will go to that length? 23%? 23%. Guys, hello. This is like scary stuff here. So John Solomon went on Stitchfield's show on Real America's Voice, and he added some more information specifically to the Mueller investigation, Crossfire Hurricane, the Oxford comma, James Comey getting fired, and then opening up the special counsel's office with Bob Mueller. That whole process there, again, total scam. They knew Trump was never a Russian agent. They staged that whole thing.
McCabe was the acting director of the FBI. He knew about it, according to this. Rod Rosenstein, Deputy Attorney General, he knew about it. This seems to go pretty deep to pretty high levels, John.
Listen, the people who write the memo are the then general counsel of the FBI, James Baker, and the then counterintelligence chief of the FBI, who was Pete Strzok's boss at the time, a guy named Bill Priestap. They sent it to the acting FBI director, Andy McCabe, who's there right from the start on Russia collusion and what was Crossfire Hurricane to begin with, and to Rod Rosenstein. That last name is so important because the theory of this case is that Donald Trump fired James Comey because he was acting at the behest of Russia, Vladimir Putin's stooge on this. The man who fired James Comey actually wasn't Donald Trump. It was Rod Rosenstein. He signs the actual letter. Rod Rosenstein knows that they didn't do this because of Russia.
Okay, so James Comey goes into the first meeting with Donald Trump. After the meeting's over, Donald Trump, can I hold you back? James Comey, 6'8" or whatever he is, towers over Trump by 3 inches. Okay, comes up, hey, we've got some potential evidence we're investigating, your ties to Russia. But if you play nice, we'll keep it under wraps. And Trump's like, what is this, a shakedown? Dude, I did real estate in Manhattan. I've dealt with the mob. What is this, shakedown? I'm not doing this. You're fired. Calls up Rod Rosenstein. Fire him. You're now in charge. You're now the acting attorney general. Fire him. Okay. So Rod Rosenstein drafts a memo and doesn't do it because he's investigating the president. He does it because he didn't follow all the protocols with the Hillary Clinton report, thus leaving the Russiagate question unanswered. Hence the appointment of the special counsel. Fraud.
Russia, or because of the president's concern about Russia. They did it because James Comey violated Justice Department policy when he handled the Hillary Clinton email case.
By the way, if you want to know how dirty Rod Rosenstein is, he was the director up in Baltimore when they allegedly, according to Jonathan McCreevy, Rod Rosenstein was the one who gave the order to plant child pornography on Cheryl Atkinson's computer. And Rod Rosenstein was, according to Jonathan McCreevy, okay, these are his allegations, not mine. His allegation is that Rod Rosenstein ordered the hit on Seth Rich, the DNC staffer who may or may not have given Julian Assange the Podesta Gmail account leaks. May or may not have, right? But he was killed. They said it was a robbery. Nothing was stolen. Jonathan McCreevy says it was an MS-13 hit. And then the guys who did the hit were then taken out to double cover it up because they're good at what they do. Allegedly, that all came out of Rod Rosenstein's office.
That's why the president fired him. And Rod Rosenstein knows that because he writes the memo. I put the memo in my story. Everybody can see it. So the Rod Rosenstein then takes this memo, takes Oxford comma, knowing that that's not why they fired James Comey, and he flips it over and says, let's have a special counsel investigation in 2 more years of pain with Robert Mueller, which, by the way, comes to the same conclusion. There was no Russia collusion between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin. It is insane to think what Rod Rosenstein did, given the direct knowledge he had. But I want to point out something else. By the time May 16th rolls around inside the FBI, Pete Strzok, the guy who ran the whole Russia collusion case, writes his girlfriend saying there's no big there, no Russia collusion. One of his close cohorts have told the FBI, a guy named Bill Parnett, who's running a big part of the investigation, there is no evidence of collusion between Trump and Russia. The FBI has gone through the Steele dossier, debunked everything in it, nothing credible in it, and they've even fired Christopher Steele for misconduct. The FBI has cleared Mike Flynn, saying he did nothing. There was no derogatory information suggesting he did anything with Russia. The CIA has told the FBI that one of their targets of the investigation, Carter Page, isn't a bad guy. He's a CIA asset. They had no proof when they opened this. And why that's important is the Florida grand jury may get to see this new case and consider it to be an overt act of a conspiracy to get Donald Trump.
An overt act of a conspiracy to get Donald Trump. And that it was. And it became an overt act of conspiracy to get his supporters as well, to put them on lists, and in some cases, put them in prison. Okay. So why would Donald Trump go out and support certain Republicans that at a minimum have been wishy-washy on all this stuff, despite the clear evidence, right? And if you work in DC, you kind of know how that town runs. You think they'd see through it. Okay. What about some of the Republicans that actually voted to impeach Donald Trump? Do they deserve another shot? Donald Trump doesn't really think so.
You understand? They voted to impeach me.
No, I was there, yeah.
In all fairness, you think that I'm going to support somebody that voted to impeach me?
Yeah, no, I hear.
You know what, MAGA, my beautiful MAGA base, the greatest people on earth, you know what they'd do if I voted in favor of somebody that voted to impeach the person that they love and I love them? They would not be happy.
Do you want them to...
They would not be happy. You're right. I would be a little upset if you threw your support around them. Politics is a nasty business. There's no doubt about that. And, you know, when J.D. Vance went up to Maine and was like, wait, we got to elect her because we can't have Plattner. It's like, is she any better? Maybe Plattner might be better. Now we're probably going to end up with some other wacko up there. Anyways, so that's what's going on. Right? These elections are highly questionable. Maybe Trump will get another term. Maybe he just won't walk away this time. He won't fly away on January 20th, 2028, like he did, or 2029, like he did on January 20th, 2021. He might not fly away. I can only cross my fingers. Actually, I really hope things just get resolved completely before then. It's going to be hard to resolve it, though, because even in the face and clear and convincing evidence that someone like Dr. Fauci was lying to me and you and all Americans every day, taking advantage of the news media to do it, right? If you can't, with clear convincing evidence that's come out recently, condemn Anthony Fauci and what he was doing and fall back on, well, he gave years of dedicated service. He gave no years of dedicated service. From the moment he got the job, he got involved in nonsense. HIV, anybody? Lyme disease, anybody? Anthony Fauci has his fingerprints all over all of it. All of it.
You shouldn't be tarring and feathering someone that has been in 6 administrations doing nothing but being a devoted servant of our public health.
Nothing? Totally devoted? What about defying the order on gain of function?
It's a shame about prosecuting him. The guy should be in a mental institution. He's a textbook sociopath. I mean, DSM-5 level sociopath who was running our pandemic response.
Yes.
Low empathy, ability to inflict pain on innocence, narcissism. I mean, let me read diary entries for you.
Who are you talking
verbatim.
about?
At the height of the pandemic.
She has him pegged. Do you? She has him pegged. Do you? Or did you drink the Kool-Aid from the media? Anthony Fauci's great. Dr. Fauci, you know, the little song that came out, that stupid kid, right? They drank the Kool-Aid. They drank the Kool-Aid. She gets it. No, he's a sociopath, like dangerous type person. Inflict pain on innocent? Yeah, that's Dr. Fauci. Has some remdesivir.
Hold on, guys. Height of the pandemic.
Hold on, Caroline.
This is March 2020.
Caroline, let me just ask you.
He's writing in his diary.
Hold on. What are you talking about?
Oh,
are you suggesting that
I have decided Libby Phillips is the worst journalist on the planet. The fact that she has a popular show scares me. What are you talking about? I'm talking about the context of this segment. Anthony Fauci, you know, he's been in the news recently. Are you aware?
he should be in a mental institution for having an ego, which I'm
close to that.
Which I think would characterize just about every single person in Washington.
At the height of the pandemic, when Americans aren't allowed to see grandma dying of COVID, what is Anthony Fauci writing about?
Caroline.
The media is so hot.
Respectfully, there is one person
I've had
at this
so
table
many
who worked
interviews.
with
I've had
Dr. Fauci.
so many
I worked at the White
articles
House.
written about me.
Caroline, I worked at the White House during COVID. I was Trump's deputy press secretary during COVID. So I actually worked with people like Dr. Fauci.
He was. You couldn't keep him off TV. You're in the press office. You would know his face was on.
And guess what, Caroline? Guess what? Of course, I will acknowledge. Was it very frustrating working in the White House press office and him being on a magazine cover or doing an interview on TV?
Was it frustrating? A little bit, because he's kind of a narcissistic sociopath. Kind of, just a little bit. I mean, I'll admit it.
Where he's talking ill about the White House and its COVID response. Yes, that was annoying. But the thing is that them trying...
Especially because it was wrong. Can you not admit it, that he was wrong? He wasn't one man standing in a storm holding on to the truth. He was the wind blowing, okay?
To scapegoat him and say that it's all his fault. We were dealing with a novel virus. This was...
We weren't. They made it. We had copies of it. We had a patent. There's a patent. It's not novel. It'd been invented. These people are insane.
Once in a lifetime generational pandemic. And so
no, we've had multiples of these. Actually, Lyme disease was another lab created thing. So everybody suffering from Lyme disease, you can thank Anthony Fauci.
We were all figuring it out as we were going.
He was busy reading his own press clips.
No, we weren't. Del Bigtree had these guys pinned. Okay. Steve Bannon had these guys pinned. I had these guys pinned. Oh, we were figuring it out as we were going on. No, we weren't. You guys were lying to us as we were going along. Gaslighting, lying, treason, criminal behavior, sociopathic behavior, narcissistic behavior. You guys all got in on it. Every one of you.
Donuts about
and you don't think that Donald Trump and all the other senators on the Hill are just as narcissistic? I mean, come on, those guys would slit someone's throat to go on Fox News.
Drinking his own Kool-Aid.
Oh, and you all
but you know who was pouring the Kool-Aid as well.
You guys loved him.
You know who was pouring the Kool-Aid as well, Caroline?
I'm sorry.
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump was pouring the Kool-Aid. Oh, Donald Trump came into office. He's got opposition all over the place. Mike Pence himself tried to throw him out of office. They tried to have Paul Ryan and Mike Pence be the candidates, right? John Trump needs to drop out of office after the Access Hollywood tapes. He comes into office and he's got his hands full with the FBI, the DOJ, trying to change policies, trying to actually do something. He's under special counsel investigation. His hands are tied. The freaking virus comes up and here comes Anthony Fauci. Trump probably had never met. Why would Trump take a meeting with a guy that's been around for 40 years? He's just going to do what he's doing, right? All of a sudden, Anthony Fauci comes in. This is a huge virus. Everybody's going to die. Look at these studies out of England. Billions of people are going to die. Donald Trump, you have to lock down the world. Turns out the Cambridge model, flawed. Not accurate. Not even close. Turns out lots of online psyops. Lots of stuff. Psyops coming out of China. Psyops coming out of Italy. Psyops coming out of everywhere. You got the Navy medical ships going up to New York, going to LA. Nobody gets in them. Nobody goes on them. You got the mass burial places. Turns out it's all homeless people dying of overdoses. Yep. Yeah. No. Oh, most of the deaths, nursing homes. Yeah. Thank Andrew Cuomo for that. Governor Whitmer. Yeah. Go for it. You know, Jay Inslee dodged a bullet there because Washington was exposed first. We were one of the breakout states, right? And it was happening in nursing homes over in Bellevue. They locked down the nursing homes. Probably the only reason we didn't get worse than New York. It's only because we were the first ones. After that, they figured out how to, manipulate the rules enough that the governor wouldn't get in trouble for doing it. But in Washington, we dodged the bullet of death by, frankly, probably Jay Inslee's early incompetence led them to make one good decision, not to put COVID patients in nursing homes here in Washington State because because it broke out in nursing homes first, allegedly. Could have just been a bad flu season for old people, frankly. That's the crazy thing about this. So Donald Trump was asked, because obviously yesterday they voted to hold Dr. Fauci in contempt. Okay, it took them 3 votes to get it out of committee. They voted for it, and then there were amendments to try to change it. They all had to get voted down. So Donald Trump's asked, should Anthony Fauci be prosecuted?
Yeah.
Do you think the DOJ should prosecute Dr. Fauci?
Well, they prosecuted Peter Navarro and they prosecuted Steve Bannon, 2 very decent people, over something that essentially was never prosecuted before. And there are sort of telltale signs of similarity. And they went to jail for a number of months over something that I saw one of the analysts said they used to laugh at it in the Justice Department when something like that was referred. But Merrick Garland prosecuted 2 very decent people and sent them to jail. I wasn't president. I would have given them a pardon in 2 seconds. But I wasn't. It was after I left. They waited till after I left, and then they prosecuted these 2 people. And they ought to be ashamed of themselves. So when you see that happen, you sort of say maybe he should. What he did is far more serious than a lot of crimes, frankly. But they prosecuted 2 people when nothing like that has ever taken place before.
Yeah, so they broke the precedent. It's been a long time since someone was prosecuted for obstruction of Congress. I was, okay, but kind of a different way. It's been a long time. Tell Bannon and Navarro for not showing up to a improperly formed committee, subpoenaing them that shouldn't have had the authority because it wasn't formed properly. And everybody knows that. Everybody knows that. But the Republicans play politics and they want to be able to form their own improperly formed committee someday in the future. So they probably let it slide and upheld it and pretended like it was real. Meanwhile, Peter Navarro and Steve Bannon spent 4 months in federal prison. One of our listeners, Doug Wyatt, he was in prison with Steve Bannon up in Danbury, Connecticut. So again, they broke the seal. They broke the seal. And here's the thing. They knew what they were doing was wrong. Dr. Redfield was on Fox News yesterday talking about gain of function. Red flags, folks. This has not been resolved.
Doctor, thank you for joining me. It's always good to be with you. I'm just curious right out of the gate here what your reaction is to this contempt investigation from the Senate that will now go to the Department of Justice for your former colleague, Dr. Fauci.
Martha, my biggest view was I was very sad and very disappointed that Fauci didn't take the opportunity to tell the truth and explain to the American people the decisions that he made, because obviously one of those decisions was contrary to some of his statements as opposed to his diary. His decision was to support gain-of-function research. As you know, in 2012, he wrote the op-ed in the Washington Post that said this research was important and it was worth the risk even if we got a major pandemic. Well, I'm of the view that it's pretty clear now that the COVID pandemic was a direct result of science and the research, gain-of-function research that was done.
So they did it to you. It's a direct result of science and the research they did, funded by your tax dollars. Oh, by the way, same funding for your SBA loan that you're defaulting on. Same people. Same people. Yep, same people. And by the way, this isn't the first time they've done this. You can go all the way back in history. The United States government blamed the bank run in 1929 on the people, actually declared us commercial enemies of the United States because of it. Trading with the Enemies Act 2.0. Go look it up. Okay. And then later down the road, the Fed Reserve Bernanke admitted it on the record. He actually made a specific, for the record, the Federal Reserve caused 1929 and the Great Depression. On the record. Oh, so they did that. They blamed us.
in the Wuhan lab that was funded by NIH as well as DOD, USAID, and the State Department. And
want to know why we're soft on China? Because it wasn't really China's problem. When the scorpion gets on the frog's back, the frog always knew it was a scorpion. We always knew what China was.
we really need to resolve that, because I'm of the view that we should not be doing that research. It's dangerous research. It has great potential to cause the next pandemic. I think we're at a risk for a next pandemic. I think it's going to be a bird flu pandemic. But I think the real risk for the bird flu pandemic is not from nature, but from scientists playing around with this in the laboratory, and we should not be doing that.
So where is the U.S. still funding this kind of research in the lab? And it is just, I just want to put a pin on the point that you just made, because you are saying that you 100% believe that this virus that we all suffered through for years in emotional and physical ways came from the gain of function research within the lab. It was an engineered virus, correct?
Yes, I don't have any doubt about that. And Steve Quay, you should get him on your show, just wrote a book that I think is very good. It's called The Genome as the Witness, and he takes you through the genome to really show you that there really is no other explanation, that this was a scientifically manipulated virus that actually emerged. And I think it's a clever title, The Genome as the Witness. But it really is, I think there's no doubt about it. The intelligence community now agrees that the most likely explanation was it came from the lab. You know, unfortunately, we won't be able to definitively have all the answers without the Chinese cooperating, but I don't think there's any question this virus came from the lab.
And
it's significant.
This kind of research is still going on. And
yes.
It's funded by U.S. dollars. Is that correct?
Well, the president has passed an executive order to stop the research, but the truth is this type of research is being done. Part of the reason is the scientific community chose to change the definition. So if you start with a virus that's not...
Change the definition. So gain of function isn't just manipulating viruses. They changed it. It's gain of function for viruses that are already deadly. So if we take a cold virus and manipulate it, we can do that, which is what they did with coronavirus. But we can't take Ebola and manipulate it. We can't take, tuberculosis and manipulate it. Just non-deadly viruses. We can gain a function those to make them deadly. Then they're not novel.
Pathogenic for humans, and
Not
turn
pathogenic.
it into a highly
They're not pathogenic.
pathogenic for humans. They say that's not gain of function research. In order for it to be gain of function research, it has to be pathogenic from the beginning. So it's false. It's a false argument. Very disappointing. We ought to move away from this type of research. It's dangerous. I'm a big supporter of Senator Paul on this issue.
I'm sorry to jump in, but we got to go. Dr. Robert Redfield, it's always good to have you with.
Wow. So, yeah, I mean, Dr. Redfield says, I'm convinced it came from a lab. He was one of the very few people that left open that possibility. And we're still funding gain of research. We've just, instead of funding gain of research for deadly viruses, we just fund gain of research for non-deadly viruses to make them deadly. Makes no sense, folks. Can't trust intelligence. By the way, intelligence, covered all this up too. Now they're coming clean, now that Trump's cleaning house. But... it was a scam. It was a scam. And how did the scam get through? How did seemingly intelligent people, smart people surrounding Washington, D.C., allegedly, the best amongst us, so we choose to represent us in D.C. by a 23% margin of error, give or take, okay? How do they let this slide? Especially the Republicans, especially now they have the supermajorities. How do they let it slide? Why isn't there more urgency to get to the bottom of this stuff? Well, maybe it's because some of our favorite politicians are in on the cover-up because they're not just protecting the deep state. By protecting the deep state, they might be protecting themselves. So this next little segment is a hard segment. It's a hard segment because it involves Representative Byron Donalds, who is running for governor of Florida, and he's very likely going to be the next governor. Okay. He has someone running against him named James Fishbeck. James Fishbeck is kind of a provocateur to some degree. He's legitimate, but he's more than willing to be a little boisterous and vocal. He's a little provocatory, but he's running hard and he is fighting fire with fire. And because he's running for a governor campaign, and it is a serious campaign, It may not be as big as Byron Donalds, but it's a serious campaign. He's got a lot of whistleblowers and tips and opposition research and all that kind of stuff. He did a press conference yesterday. This was a pretty stunning press conference. Now, there's been rumors, not rumors, but pretty confirmed things about Representative Corey Mills, domestic violence with girlfriends and ex-wife and pretty ugly stuff. Representative Corey Mills is right alongside Democrat Ruben Gallego and Eric Swalwell in their depraved behavior. Apparently, Corey Mills and Byron Donalds are pretty decent friends. Okay. So James Fishbeck does this press conference, and it wasn't a very long press conference, but it was, 7-8 minutes, but I'm just going to pay the highlight, 1:20 of this. This is a hard story, right? Because this guy's supposed to be on our side. Not only that, he's supposed to be one of the good ones on our side.
On July 21st, 2026, NBC News reported that Republican Florida Congressman Corey Mills was under criminal investigation by the Department of Justice. Like virtually every federal investigation, this one began with a single suspect and quickly spread to include others. This government whistleblower who approached my campaign has confirmed that this investigation has now expanded to include U.S. Congressman Byron Donalds, who, along with Corey Mills, is under investigation for federal sex trafficking. Federal prosecutors are investigating two dates in question: May 17th, 2024, and November 19th, 2024. Dates when Congressman Mills and Donalds are said to have traveled to the MGM National Harbor, a luxury hotel resort in Oxon Hill, Maryland, where prosecutors believe that both Mills and Donalds solicited, procured, and paid women for sexual acts. Federal prosecutors are in the final stages of this investigation and will soon charge both men under Title 18 of the U.S. Code, Section 1952, a felony that carries a conviction of 5 years in prison.
Now,
on July,
a number of weeks ago, we played a clip of Byron Donalds out on the campaign trail in someone's home. And the person hosting it says, Byron Donalds is a CEO. He's got a company and you need to buy stock in his company so that you can have access to the governor of Florida, right? And you're a shareholder. And he treats shareholders different than constituents. It was a grotesque pitch. Fortunately, it wasn't Byron Donalds saying it, but he didn't stop it. He was standing right there and then got up and took the microphone and continued on. Where there's smoke, there's fire sometimes, folks. Now, this could be a very dirty political trick. How do we know that? Because we watched them do the same thing to Donald Trump. This could be a very dirty political trick. But after this press conference, right, the Byron Donalds campaign reached out to the Fishbeck campaign, and this was their response. Okay. A little odd, in my opinion. So Byron Donalds is coming from James Fishbeck. Byron Donalds' surrogate, so this is one of Byron Donalds' mouthpieces, says the text messages we provided, because they did provide some evidence, are fake and that a prostitution is not sex trafficking. And he posts great defense. Tyler, first of all, the only evidence he provides is 3 text messages saying that they're staying at the same hotel from Corey, which is probably fake. Also, soliciting prostitution is not sex trafficking on the federal or state level. Great defense. So you're not denying the prostitution. That used to sink campaigns. Okay. It used to sink campaigns. Now it's like, oh, it's not even illegal. Okay. All right. Well, turns out, all he's got is fake text that they stayed at a hotel. It's probably faked. Well, turns out somebody heard that and they sent this message to the Fishbeck campaign. So this is again, oh, how amazing. So James Fishbeck posts, Byron Donalds' team is now denying he was at the MGM on November 19th, 2024. We just got this email with more photo evidence. So here is someone who emailed this to him, Byron Donalds MGM Resort. Hi, this is a photo of Corey Mills and Byron Donalds at the MGM Resort on November 19th, 2024. I was there. I am submitting this to you anonymously, and I want to remain anonymous. Thank you. So you zoom in on the picture. There's Byron Donalds and there's Corey Mills at the MGM Grand Hotel that his surrogate just said he wasn't there and it was fake. Oh, and by the way, prostitution's not even illegal. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy, because Byron Donalds is the Trump-endorsed candidate. So if Byron Donalds gets charged by Trump's DOJ, that's a bad political take. It's a bad political look. No doubt about that. Okay, no doubt about that. So now we find out. We've got Mitch McConnell in a vegetative state, probably dead. Who freaking knows? Nobody seems to be doing anything about it, including Trump. We've got Byron Donalds under investigation. Do you think Trump's not aware of this? I don't know. Is the FBI and DOJ keeping secrets from him? You've got Corey Mills. He's in a world of hurt. Both these, you got Max Miller in the Republican Party, world of hurt. I don't know. Maybe they're cleaning up the party. Maybe that's what this is. Or maybe not. It's hard to know. It's hard to know what's really going on there, right? It's really hard to know what's really going on there. Now, Nancy Mace, who is going to be leaving us soon, she did not win the primary to be governor of North Carolina or South Carolina. I think she's from South Carolina. I think she's from South Carolina. Anyway, she didn't win her bid to be governor. And so this will be her last term in the U.S. House of Representatives. And she herself, Donald Trump, called an evil woman. Carlite says they are also dirty. Time to clean house on both sides. Agreed. Donald Trump called her an evil woman. And she's been one of these people that obviously she was, a victim herself as a teenager of assault. And she kind of carries that with her, almost like a badge of shame or honor. I'm not exactly sure. She mentions it ad nauseum sometimes. But she herself has had many relations. And, she's the one who showed pictures of herself undressed on the congressional floor because a former boyfriend had security camera footage and blah, 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 blah. And he was sharing pictures of her and she made this big thing and revenge porn legislation, on and on and on. Well, she's also rumored to have had relationships with her own staffers, female staffers, by the way. But it doesn't matter, I guess. She also was really in support of disclosing the Jeffrey Epstein stuff. That might be kind of why she got a little crosswise with Trump, didn't get the endorsement. Might not have got the endorsement anyways. I don't know. She claims to fight for him. Nonetheless, here is a little video that she put out yesterday that Anna Polina retweeted and said, truth. Okay. And I do believe that this is the case. So to the extent that she is blowing the whistle on Congress, good for her. But everything she's mentioning here are real problems, right? This is why we send a otherwise great politician to DC and then, into their time of service, we're like, why are they doing this? Why are they protecting the deep state, the intelligence, the fraud, 23% voter error? Why are they voting on bills that are good for foreign nations and the illegal immigrant? On and on and on it goes. Have we ever stopped to consider that our worst fears might be true, that most of DC is blackmailed and trying to cover up behavior that should be disqualifying to serve in DC?
Congress has a problem. Members have been sleeping with their staff, living with staff, and treating Capitol Hill like a personal dating app, on the taxpayer's dime, no less. We're done watching it happen. I introduced 2 resolutions last week to put a stop to all of this nonsense. The first prohibits any member from engaging in a sexual relationship with any House employee. Right now, the ban only covers a member's direct staff, leaving thousands of other House employees and employees on the Hill and at the Capitol with zero protection. Think about the retaliation that could happen if you didn't date a member of Congress. Senator Ruben Gallego, for example, found the loophole while serving in the House, and he used it. 2 aides working for other members, perfectly okay under the current rules, but not anymore. Congress is not your personal dating app. It's not your personal dating pool. If you can't do your job without hitting on staff, maybe perhaps it's time to find another one. The second resolution bans members from living with House employees. No rule against this exists today, and in fact, I'm told it goes on frequently. So former Representative Eric Massa lived with 5 aides before resigning amid allegations he groped and harassed multiple young male staffers, including those he shared a roof with. This year, another member has faced reports of living with a senior male staffer. All of it completely fine under the current rules, but we all know morally this has got to stop. And a boss and a roommate should never be the same person. No staffer should come home at night to the person who signs their paycheck. This shouldn't need an explanation to a sitting member of Congress, and yet here we are. These loopholes have existed long enough, so now we're closing them. This is Congress, not a frat house, and certainly not Bumble. It's time to act like it or resign.
It's Congress, not a frat house, and certainly not Bumble. I agree with everything she says there. It doesn't make any sense, just from a worker standpoint, right? You shouldn't have to share a roof with your boss. And I'm sure in a lot of those situations, it starts out as sharing rent, and we're both traveling back and forth our districts. It's not going to be good, guys. It's not going to be good. And obviously the fraternization is a huge problem. We've heard reports, things like John Ratcliffe getting lured into a hotel room and on and on and on. And goes, I hate this stuff, right? On one hand, you're like, people's personal business. Problem is they don't have any personal business. They represent us. And when that personal business spills over into public reporting and things like that, it's a problem. When they have to be shamed and doing the right thing, it's a problem. Yesterday, we played a clip where John Solomon got on War Room and said, listen, I'm going to name names. Tom Cotton and John Thune are preventing the John Brennan deposition from going from Congress to Joe DeNeneva, who is running the grand jury down in Florida. They need that document to indict John Brennan. Come on, name names, Cotton, Thune. I'm sure people blew up their phones because suddenly yesterday there was a log jam that broke and the documents got either started to be voted out of conference or transferred. Let's hear what John Solomon says.
Senator Cotton agreed to what?
He said he's going to get a resolution. You have to vote it out. This is what I was saying. I said it has to be voted out of the Senate. They had the request in January. They're going to vote it out now. That's a good thing. They'll get that out to the Justice Department. That gets that logjam cleared. Good on Senator Cotton. Good on Senator Thune. Good on the Justice Department. Anyone who intervened yesterday, they got it done. That's the sort of things that gets progress going. The FBI has created an extraordinary body of evidence for prosecutors. The prosecutors now have got to go before the grand jury. I will tell you this, my understanding is that they're securing cooperation from some very important witnesses, people that we never would have thought would have flipped. They got to now put the case together and get some indictments done soon before more statutes expire. And I think that's the process that's underway. And meanwhile, the part that I can contribute, because the president is giving me this extraordinary opportunity, just keep getting documents out. And we are getting incredible cooperation from FBI, CIA, NSA, ODNI. And if you asked me a year ago if I'd ever say that, I would have laughed at you. The cooperation has been unprecedented. We've got millions of pages of documents, and we're going to get the tens of thousands that matter out. Some of them don't matter. But the stuff that does matter, we're getting it out. And you've seen this week alone 3 big revelations. Next week, probably see 3 more.
That's great. See some more revelations. I want to see indictments. I think the revelations are great. It's good for show content, show material. I want to see indictments. I'd prefer not doing the show because I could trust in accountability. But instead, here I am talking to you guys, trying to share this stuff because, it matters. The argument that stuff like this doesn't matter doesn't fly with me. I'm like, no, I went to prison. Like, it matters. Our rights matter. It matters. Okay, another thing going on. Let's shift topics just a little bit. Let's talk about the Clarity Act. So Russia yesterday had a huge step forward, or not yesterday, just a couple of days ago. They had a huge step forward. They passed a Clarity Act of their own. Now, I'm not going to play Putin talking here because I can't understand him. It's not translated. But Edward T. Winslow says this: nobody is telling you how effed the dollar's monopoly just became. Remember, Marco Rubio said in 5 years, we won't be talking about sanctions. Why is that? Because the dollar is going to lose its ability to be the prime reserve asset. It's going to shift to other things. Everyone is watching crypto charts, NFT drops, the next altcoin pump. Nobody is talking about the fact that Putin just stood on stage at the International Economic Forum and confirmed a workaround is already built. He said plainly, any country can at any moment be deprived of access to its legitimate assets, which happened to Russia. I got debanked. I tell this to peasants. Putin is telling this to other sovereigns, which are placed in dollars or euros, as well as to Western financial payment infrastructure. They got locked out. Russia got cut from the SWIFT and had its reserves frozen after 2022. Putin says the West's financial monopoly is clearly out of date. BRICS, which is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, which is 40% of the world's global trade, is now building blockchain settlement rails no sanction can touch. mostly on Bitcoin network. He's not bluffing. He just signed a new digital currency law regulating exchanges, mining, and digital assets, specifically so Russia can settle foreign trade without ever touching a dollar. In 5 years, sanctions won't matter. This doesn't just change the sanctions fight. This changes all of global finance forever. China has bought gold for 20 straight months, over 230 tons stacked. Intra-BRICS trade already tops $1 trillion a year. 100,000 million, billion, trillion a year. BRICS nations now represent nearly 40% of global GDP. I didn't have to read it there. I knew that already. The dollar still holds 58 to 59% of global reserves, but that number is bleeding and not growing. The U.S. spent 80 years building a system where sanctions were the ultimate weapon. Russia and China just spent 20 months quietly building the workaround. This is not a currency swap. This is the first real crack in 70 years of dollar dominance. And Washington is still treating it like a talking point instead of an emergency. Bookmark this. You're watching the biggest shift in global finance since Bretton Woods. Follow and turn on notifications before it's too late. Because the United States has the largest and most dominant financial network, we can get ahead. We already are ahead. Okay, we can get ahead. We already are ahead. As long as we pass the regulations so that it can grow and be appropriately regulated. The SEC and CFTC have both said that they're prepared to institute crypto regulation. It'll all be administrative and it'll all be in violation of Loper Bright and can all be challenged, but they're ready to put in some guardrails if the Clarity Act can't get passed, which I think is pretty important because the challenge with the Clarity Act is there was a hearing on it yesterday because they were trying to vote it out of committee. And it turns out as of this morning, the Clarity Act, they may vote on it in September when they come back from recess. Maybe, who knows, right? Carlite says, get your Bitcoin. Absolutely. But the ridiculousness around the Clarity Act is focused on Donald Trump's ethics and if they can own crypto and all this kind of nonsense deflection. And it's even getting down to the most ridiculous. While Russia is instituting their equivalent of the Clarity Act, while they're getting ahead on that, while they're enabling a way for them to do international trade without going through anything that touches the dollar system so that sanctions are a weapon, while they're doing that, setting it up, doing it now, in our Congress, we're still arguing about stupid stuff like crypto is racist and it cuts people, minorities out. Fortunately, Bernie Moreno, who is a Bitcoiner, is the first person to ever pay his taxes with Bitcoin, by the way, in 2016. Can you believe it? In 2016, Bitcoin was invented in 2009. Invented, discovered, however you want to say that, in 2009. By 2016, the United States government was already accepting it for tax payments. They don't accept gold, by the way. I'm just saying. Okay, so here's Bernie Moreno explaining that more minorities, percentage-wise, own Bitcoin and crypto assets than white people do.
Mr. Dumas, you talked about digital assets. You call it crypto. I mean, I'm going to. Mr. Dumas, you talked about digital assets. You call it crypto. I mean, I'm going to assume you know the difference between all these digital assets. What percentage of Black Americans hold digital assets?
According to I think a recent study is a low percentage. I think overall, not just Black people. I think according.
No, just talking about Black Americans. What would you guess?
I'll probably say 2%.
2%. And how about Hispanic Americans?
Sir, I don't know the statistics.
Yes. No. White Americans.
Well, overall, according to Federal Reserve study, 9% of Americans, all Americans, own.
Would you be completely and utterly flummoxed to know that Black Americans hold more digital assets than any other ethnic group? And it's 20%, 19% for Hispanics, 18% for whites. And would you be equally flummoxed to know that 66% of whites hold stocks, 39% of Blacks hold stocks, and 28% of Hispanics hold stocks, meaning that you think it's riskier for the 6.6 million Black Americans that hold crypto assets that you don't think they should? And who are you to decide whether they should or should not?
First, I would say I would question the actual study.
It's from Pew. You can look it up.
Well, I'm sure, but I would question whether or not the 20%. I would obviously see how they make the determination. My whole point is that it's the idea of crypto providing this access to all, right? In a sense where you produce this type of predatory inclusion to where some people are thinking that they can hit it big, right?
Well, but so 6.6 million Black Americans are not sophisticated or intelligent enough to know that they should or should not about digital assets?
I'm not saying that, sir. I'm just saying that I first have to question that number you're using. And second, I would say that, I think people need to appreciate the risk, right? I don't know there's enough disclosure, enough information for people to understand, appreciate the risk, because crypto is a very volatile asset.
Well, on the behalf of the 6.6 million Black Americans who do, I disagree with you. I would also like, Mr. Chairman, I will produce the Pew Research.
Okay, so the interesting thing about this, it's a risk. See, Bernie Moreno started talking about, you call it all crypto. I'm assuming you know the difference between these crypto assets because you've got Bitcoin and crypto. They're two different things, like totally different worlds, right? And so Bitcoin is sovereign, decentralized. Everything else crypto-wise is centralized. Now, when he says, well, people don't understand the risks, the Clarity Act is to remove the risk, you dumb shit. Don't you get it? It's not a tech stock. These are not investments. These are payment rails. This is money. This is not a tech stock. You are not making a high-risk investment in an IPO. You are buying money. Okay, it's not a risk problem. It's a lack of law enforcement problem. When more people come into crypto, and especially banks and institutions, the risk and the volatility will stabilize. You'll probably trend upwards until you reach network effect, right? But it will stabilize. It'll be more consistent and it will be very much less volatile. It'll stop acting like a tech stock. So when these people talk like that, right? Well, it's, they don't understand the risk. Bernie Moreno. So they're too dumb to know? They're too dumb to read a prospectus? They're too dumb to make investment decisions? No. Okay. These guys, sometimes you just wonder if their brain works or not, right? Well, it's just too risky. They don't understand the risk. This is not tech stock land. Okay. This is money. This is payment rails. This is bringing law enforcement into it so that if your money gets stolen, there's a law enforcement function to go try to get it back. Okay, that's the point, to de-risk the crypto world, which has been the Wild West for the last 10, 15 years. Okay, that's the point there. Now, you may like it or not. We may think it's a control grid. It might bite us in the butt in 20 or 30 years. Maybe, right? Definitely all open for debate. But don't tell me that we shouldn't pass the Clarity Act because it's too risky for minorities because they won't understand. They already hold more crypto assets than the average white American, both minority groups, Hispanic and blacks. Okay? They're obviously adopting it. Why? Because they probably distrust the government. So great stuff. Hopefully we get a vote. Maybe we'll get lucky and they'll throw it out today, or maybe they'll cancel the recess and they'll stick around for a couple more days and get their voting done. If not, I guess we'll be in September. They're saying if it doesn't pass now, it won't pass till 2028 or 2030. If that's the case, I don't know where. I don't know. I guess we'll find out. The nice thing is, because I enjoy Bitcoin doesn't care about the Clarity Act at all. Ethereum might, XRP might care a little bit, but Bitcoin doesn't care one bit. In fact, no Clarity Act would probably be better for Bitcoin itself than not. But okay, guys, that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to visit leftbehindandwithout.org, where you can make a real difference helping children of incarcerated parents. Leftbehindandwithout.org is getting ready to do their Christmas run, where they buy all the children, about 130 kids in the program. All the kids get a really nice Christmas present. So please consider making even the smallest of donations. You have no idea how far even a little bit of money can go. Some of the kids that are being supported by as little as, $50 a month for a YMCA membership or a sports team. So please, please, please consider making a donation to leftbehindandwithout.org. And of course, always visit us at 1776live.us. See what we're doing throughout the rest of the day, helping get real remedy for peasants trying to make it through the system. And of course, politicalremodel.com and takebackmycounty.com. Get involved politically. That is true wealth, where we actually control our nation. We have to take it back from the collectivists and the communists that are trying to steal it from us, with 23% fraud margins in places like New York City. All right, guys, thanks so much for joining.